President Putin said that he wants to meet with me as soon as possible. So we have to wait for this, but we have to end that war. Would it never happened if I was president? That war would have never happened.
President-elect Trump yesterday at Turning Point USA's America Fest, still pushing for a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Putin, meanwhile, vowing to keep hitting Ukraine in retaliation for a weekend drone attack on residential buildings and an industrial facility in the Russian city of Kazan. Ukrainian drones also striking a major Russian fuel depot for the second time in just over a week. Trump nominating Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg as the assistant to the president and special envoy for Ukraine and Russia. Trump posting on Truth Social, quote, "He was with me from the beginning. Together we will secure peace through strength and make America and the world safe again." Joining me now is the man himself, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. General Kellogg, you will reportedly travel to Kiev early next month and are open to visiting Moscow if invited. Tell us more about this and your priorities for this new role.
Yeah, Jerry, thanks for having me this morning. Good to be with you. Look, I've got nothing to announce on travel. I'll leave that up to the transition team. But the president is very, very consistent about what he wants, and that is to stop the killing and bring peace to the region. It's his #1 international priority. But he wants a peace that's going to be fair. It's going to be sustainable. It's going to be secure. We've seen peace processes happen in the past, or they've tried to, with Ukraine and Russia and the Minsk process, and it's failed miserably. The president's not going to go there. He understands the importance of this. He understands the importance of the relations he's got with his allies and also with Vladimir Putin as well. And he's the man who can bring this to a conclusion, and I really believe he will in a relatively near term.
The Biden administration will reportedly announce a final $1.2 billion Ukraine security package in the coming days. That's using up the remaining funds set aside to buy new weapons. The U.S. has committed $175 billion in aid for Ukraine since Russia's invasion in 2022, including over $61 billion in security assistance. General, your thoughts on the billions of dollars already sent to Ukraine?
Yeah, Jerry, you know, we've already delivered $170 billion of American taxpayer money. The American people have been incredibly generous with their money. It's also time for Europe to really step up, though. This is a European-based problem. It's in their neighborhood. And I think they're starting to do so. And you're starting to see it primarily like with the Poles. When you look at spending of NATO, the Poles are almost at 4% right now. And everybody's starting to ramp up their game. They understand the importance of it in Europe. And you see the leaders realizing that as well, and they're going to operate in concert with the President of the United States. But, you know, what the Americans have done has been very, very generous. They understand that that's the American way.
Well, President-elect Trump's team is telling European officials already that he will demand NATO member states increase their defense spending to 5% of their GDP. That's according to the Financial Times. Trump will also reportedly keep supplying military aid to Ukraine. General, Trump has been pushing and pushing for European countries to pay their fair share into NATO. What can you tell us?
Yeah. Well, I think he's absolutely right. It's been for years they haven't made them the original agreement. You know, it goes back to the Wales Agreement of 2014 when every one of the NATO nations who were there and signed it said they'd be at 2% of their GDP on military spending, of which 20% of that was modernization. And 1/3 of the nations have never hit that number, to include the Germans. And I think he's absolutely right that everybody needs to step up. This is a collective security agreement. The United States is well up there, and the allies should pick up the slack as well, and they're starting to do that. So I do give them a lot of credit, the fact that they're actually starting to do it. They understand the importance of it. That happened almost 3 years ago with the Russians invading Ukraine. So we're starting to see this push, and I think President-elect Trump has been consistent about the war to end, but he's also been very, very consistent of how the allies need to step up and continue to provide funding in their own backyard. And again, they're starting to do it.
Well, it is their backyard. Jonathan, you have a question here?
Yeah, General Kellogg, I appreciate what you're saying about wanting to have sort of not only a peace, but a long-term peace, because that really is the goal here. We've spent $170 billion in Ukraine, and clearly that hasn't worked. Are there any incentives for Russia or other sticks that we have over Russia to get them to the table, to get them to agree to something that is in our best interest, meaning America's best interest for a long term, that we haven't done thus far?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of the president-elect. He's got some thoughts as how to end this war, and there's going to be a good process involved with it. But I don't want to give any part of the game plan away that the president-elect has. And you're right about the money that has been spent. But it is, long term, I think it's in the interest of the European nations to bring this to a conclusion as well. And I think that the alliance stays together, supporting the United States in the efforts we're going to bring to bear on bringing this thing to a conclusion, I think is going to pay off.
Thank you, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. Great to see you, and Merry Christmas to you.